Welcome everybody, my beautiful IU. It's so great to have you here. Whether you're here live or you're watching the recording, you're welcome. And couldn't do this without you. This is a co-created space, and you are as much a part of it as I am. So I appreciate your energy and your attention and your presence, because today we're going to talk about something a little different. If you're like me, you're constantly being challenged or asked to give your attention and your intention to the chaos in the world that's all around us. What I call the global static, right? It's really provoking, and it's very challenging for us to kind of live our lives and, be happy and fulfilled and all that kind of stuff when we're faced with this constant negativity and manipulation. And most people I talk to, whether they consider themselves spiritual or not, are looking at what is happening in the world and realizing that so much of it that we actually get to see is manipulated. And so there's a distrust of the events that are unfolding. At the same time, we have incredible compassion for the people that are suffering. And we know there are people suffering, right? Even though the news and the images are manipulated, we know that there are people suffering. So the invitation is for us to be outraged or, reactive, that we have to do something. And what I'm going to talk about today is the idea that peace can be, in a way, can be a weapon or an act of rebellion against that illusionary, intense negativity and chaos. It's the ultimate rebellion against a world that benefits from our fragmentation, both at a macro level, in community, fragmented, and also fragmented inside, in our heart. So, question. Drop a 1 in the chat if you felt more exhausted by the noise of trying to change things than by the actual work itself. Think about that for a minute. How much of your energy is being leaked into things that you can't actually touch, let alone actually change? Right? Drop a 1 in the comments if that resonates with you, if that sounds like something that affects you. I know it does me, and I have an active practice to not leak my energy that way, but it's hard because it's bombarding us all the time. And it's really, really tough to stay focused, especially when people we love are constantly coming up to us and wanting us to engage on that level, right? And so I want to get into, that's kind of the setup. So what do we do about it? How can we behave differently, or how can we take a different path? Those who know me know I have a long history in the tech world. And so I'm going to use a couple of technology metaphors for our inner work that I think a lot of you will understand. We have this concept in technology of technical debt. And what that means is, over time, as you iterate and upgrade and change over many years, a lot of times there isn't time or budget to do things right. So you do things so that they'll just work and keep going. There's an analogy there for human consciousness and human work around trauma and shadow, right? In technology, we call it technical debt. And in human consciousness, maybe we call it spiritual debt, right? We get locked into survival mode, and this external noise is kind of keeping us there, keeping us locked into that survival mode. So what do we do? right? It's the mechanism or the injection of that type of thinking is really fear, imposter syndrome, who am I to do anything? What can I do? And shadow. Carl Jung termed that shadow work many, many years ago. And I've yet to find a better way to describe it, because they're the parts of ourselves that exist in shadow because we keep them there. We don't want to see them in the light. We don't want to address them. And so there's work involved in finally seeing them and surfacing them into the light and integrating them into our consciousness and who we are. Until we do that, they run the show in the background. And they make us reactive, those aspects of ourself that are unhealed. So doing your shadow work is the process by which you surface those bad feelings or those aspects of yourself that were created from trauma, and allowing them to, how would I say it? Well, you reclaim the energy that's trapped there, because it takes energy to maintain the status quo. That's what most people don't realize, is especially a lot of the men I've done deep work with, when they come into the circle for the first time, they've got this dark baggage that they've just put on a shelf or put in the basement of their consciousness and, move on and just get on with life. Well, it doesn't work that way, because those things affect you whether you want to deal with them or not. And if they're intense enough, they can actually cause disease. They're somatic, they're in your body. So if you don't address them, they will eventually surface in ways that you don't like. And I've experienced this personally. I had two near-death experiences that I now understand were because I was avoiding unprocessed trauma. So what does that mean for, doing things in the world and helping other people? Because I know a lot of people that are watching this have a strong mission of service. So think about the principle of mirroring. Can you really help other people in an authentic way, in a healthy way, in the way that they need to be helped, that is in their best and highest good, if you are projecting your unintegrated shadow on them and you're in this reactive mode? It kind of breaks down your authentic personality so that you can't interact on that heart-centered, authentic way, right? So that's a problem for people that want to be, even if you don't want to be a healer, quote unquote, whatever that means to you, but you just want to be of service to other people. It can kind of get to a feeling where you're just giving away all your energy. And I would argue that when you feel like that, it's because you're not connected to the work you're doing in service with your authentic self. And so you can start to see how important this is to generate that peace inside, so that your actions and the work that you do outside of yourself reflect and generate peace in others, right? Otherwise, it's kind of like that, old image from Greek mythology of Atlas rolling the boulder uphill. It's just not sustainable, and it gets harder and harder the longer you do it. So think of a time this week when you reacted out of fear or stress instead of responding with your full presence. What would have changed in that moment if you felt completely anchored in yourself? How do you think it would have changed? And I'm not asking this question to generate, shame and blame and any of those things. I'm just asking you to be present and answer that question. You can put it in the chat down below, or you can just answer it for yourself. How would that moment have changed if you were able to connect authentically and bring peace into that conversation? I ask myself that all the time, and I practice, right? And it's an effort. It's an act of will to do this. But the benefits are manifold. There's so many benefits to doing this work. I believe that if there's a critical mass of people that are connecting this way, we don't need the whole world to change, because that nexus, that nucleus of people, the peace will generate and radiate out from them. There have been many experiments. Lynn McTaggart is one of the people that has done experiments in the field. If you haven't read her book, The Field, I urge you to. It's amazing. And they've done experiments with mass meditation where they've measured before and after, right? And people get together and they meditate on peace and harmony. And they've actually seen measurable decreases in crime rate and things like that. So you can't do that without being in community, and you can't do that unless you're generating and doing the work of peace within yourself. So that brings me to kind of talking about the sacred exchange, the dual mission. We have to serve ourselves, maintain our frequency, so that we have the capacity to serve the person right in front of us. Right? Think about that for a second. Let that sink in. We have to serve ourselves first. We have to, right? It's like when you get the safety training on the airplane, you put the mask on the person next to you first, then you put your own mask on. That's kind of the opposite of what I'm saying. I would argue that it might be better to do it the other way. Put your own mask on first, then do the other one. But however you do it, you can't pour from an empty cup, is my point. And you can't be of service in a healthy way without healing yourself or focusing on your own healing. And we all have the divine ability to heal ourselves. I'm convinced of this. Not just from my own personal experience of healing, and it's an ongoing process for sure, but having all the near-death experiences and health crises I've had, and then to be able to stand in front of you today, completely free from chronic pain, and having lost 100 pounds, and not having all the health complications that I've had before. It's a combination of things that I did. But a big part of it was doing the energy work, doing the work to at least find the shadows and then start to integrate them. So what that does for us is it puts us in a more neutral position emotionally. So if you know what it's like to be in fight or flight most of the time and feel like you're in survival mode most of the time, you know that this is a place where you don't have a lot of energy to do anything other than what you feel is absolutely necessary. And it's not a good way to live, right? It's really hard to have joy and happiness and close and deep friendships or relationships with other people when you feel that way. So there is another way to be, and that's what I'm talking about. And when you bring in the pressure and the chaos from the outside, and the pressure, those of us who are compassionate and want to help, we start to realize that we can move from this abstract, overwhelming notion of saving the world to healing the exchange, healing the exchange. Everything that in our lives is an energetic exchange. Think about that, right? Whether you really understand or know what that spiritual energy is, you know it when you feel it. When you have a really deep, authentic conversation with someone, how much that raises your mood and it makes you feel good. Or you have a great interaction with a friend or a loved one or family member, you want to do that more, right? Well, you can do that as a practice. And so you go from this saving the world with your hands in the air and your hair on fire to healing the exchange and focusing on the person in front of you and the person that you're looking at in the mirror. That's where the healing occurs. And when you do that, the effect ripples outward from that healing exchange, that energetic exchange, into the world. How else can you generate peace. How else can it come through you from the divine out into the world? I would argue that that's how it works. So all this notion of, I'm not saying don't be an activist. There are places and times where showing up and holding your hand up to be counted and saying, no, no more, this is not right, is completely justified. But when you choose those opportunities mindfully, and it comes from a place of energetic exchange, and you feel like your cup is full, how much more of an effect can you have in those situations than if you were just running on survival mode, running on fumes, as they say, and coming at it from fear about outcomes and not a sense of community and healing, right? So perception is really important, right? And I've heard the term sacred advocacy, and I love that. I love that term, because to me what that means is you're coming at the advocacy of whatever issue you're trying to promote. Indigenous rights, environmental, voting rights, women's rights, whatever it is. You're coming at it from a place of love and of energetic exchange rather than fear and survival, right? And we have that capability, all of us do, right? Because we are sparks of the divine. We are connected to the divine all the time. And so that's why when I started on the shamanic path and I started learning the wisdom of the Q'ero earth keepers in the Andes, and they have this concept called Ayni, A-Y-N-I, which is about harmony and reciprocity in all things, especially with ourselves, but with the land, with the animals, with other people. It's the idea of a sacred exchange, and that's what I'm taking on. Life isn't a series of transactions, right? It's a web of relationships. And if we look at it that way, it's so much more enriching to our soul and our emotional balance and our joy, our ability to engender joy, than if we look at everything as transactional, right? And on the surface, you can look at Ayni that way. It's about reciprocity, isn't it? So there's an exchange there, and an exchange can be transactional. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the more that you give to the collective good, the more that the collective good in that container gives to you. So there's no direct expectation of a transactional improvement. It's just the way it is. You live that way with your container and your community. And so I want you to think about right now, who's the person in front of you today that needs help? Maybe it's a spouse, a client, or a stranger. If you showed up for them with 100% peace and zero static, what would be possible in that exchange? What would be possible? So again, you can answer this question for yourself or put it down in the comments. But that's something I ask myself quite a bit, especially when I meet a new person. I have this practice that I follow of whenever I make a new connection, I try to just honor the connection for what it is without expectation and just let it evolve. And when I can do that, I'm not perfect either. I'm human. Sometimes I have expectations. But when I can do that as neutrally as possible, I find that magic happens because I often get surprised by what that person brings to the exchange, because I'm allowing their authentic energy into that circle, just like I'm trying my best to put my authentic energy into the circle, right? And when you do that and you have an authentic exchange, a sacred exchange, magic happens. You learn all kinds of things about that person and they of you that you didn't even know, because most people are used to interacting at a very surface kind of transactional level, right? So when you surprise them by being open to an authentic connection, you can really really experience magic. So, what I want to offer or bring in is a way of doing this sacred exchange in a community that you choose. And that's what this Vital Harmony Council is about. And we're starting a new container on March 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And the purpose of this is to give you a safe, supportive, authentic container to bring whatever you have into the circle, whether it's shadows or gold, and have a supportive environment to not only do your own work with people that understand, because they're doing their work too, but to find ways to be of service to the person in front of you. And so the information that I was given by Spirit was not just making this another program, self-improvement program, and charging, thousands of dollars for the 16-week program. What came to me was, if somebody has more money, financial abundance than time, sure, they can do that. They can, and it's a path of what I'm calling the path of patronage. Perfectly acceptable. Many of us are super busy, but we still want to have that experience of that supportive container, right? So if you want to come in with the path of patronage, you absolutely can do that. But the revolutionary part, the rebellious part against the status quo and the chaos and the fear out in the world, is to allow people to walk into the circle following a path of service. So what that looks like is you will have a partner in the circle, and you will work with that partner directly to come up with ways that you can be of service to the community while you're going through the healing yourself. And whatever that looks like, anything reasonable is fine. If it's in integrity with who you are and what you want to do in the world, then it's acceptable. And it could be something like, the first thing I thought of was, feeding the homeless, or, cleaning up public trails and hiking trails in the park, something in nature, right? Or maybe volunteering at an animal shelter. All those things are totally fine. But what if you're a person that is the caregiver for your home, for your family, and you spend a lot of your time taking care of people, cooking meals, taking people to appointments, that kind of stuff, and you don't really have time to be of service, quote unquote, out in the community? Well, guess what? You are of service in your own community. And that's perfectly acceptable. So I'm inviting you to engage your creativity and think about all the ways that you can be of service, or are being of service in the world, and bring that into the container and allow that richness to affect everyone around you. Not just in the container, but everyone around you in the world. And I have a secret agenda, because I know firsthand the power of healing in the community. What do most people do when they're hurting? Emotionally, physically, they isolate, right? And I did that for many, many years. And what I've learned is that that's not nearly as effective, and sometimes it can really be detrimental to healing, as doing what's really uncomfortable, which is being vulnerable and being in community and asking for help. And allowing others the opportunity to be of service to you, as you are so willing to be of service to others. It's much easier to give than receive, isn't it? So that's really what this Vital Harmony Council is about. And it's a radical, as I was saying before, it's kind of a radical alternative to the DIY course or the guru lecture. It's a co-created sanctuary in all ways. So I talked about the Ayni model, right? The patronage path, the service path. This is our real world experiment in disrupting the status quo. And I believe that when we start, because we already have a pretty good group of people that have signed up, there's still spaces if you want to come in. But just know you're not going to be the only one. There's already some pretty committed people that are very excited about trying out this model. I think that it will echo and reverberate through the world, the energy that we're creating in this container. And I hope, and it already has, because I've had some conversations with people about this outside, people are getting inspired by this model and want to adapt it and try it in their own context. And I love that. I want that to happen. I don't feel like I own it in any way. I feel like it came through me, not from me. So if it inspires you and you want to try to do it in a different way or do it in your community, I encourage you to do that. So we're going to begin this container on a very auspicious weekend, which is the spring equinox. And I think the energy of that will really empower, charge up the container. So are you ready to stop preparing to be a leader and start embodying it? So if the resonance feels right for you, then the link is going to be below this recording to sign up. Also, if you want to talk to me first, if you want to really explore what this would mean to you, because I'm not asking for your money necessarily, I'm asking for your commitment. I'm asking for you to embrace Ayni, embrace reciprocity and harmony in a very practical, measurable way. In a way, that's a lot more that's being asked of you, right? Because I want you to bring your authenticity into the circle. If you want to bring money in, that's welcome too. But mostly it's about the authenticity and the exchange, the sacred exchange, right? So the question is, are you ready to stop preparing to be a leader in this area and start embodying it? Sacred advocacy, sacred exchange. And if the resonance feels right, then come on in. You're going to be welcome and supported. The most radical thing that you can do today is to be at peace while the world is at war. We're building a sanctuary for that peace in the Vital Harmony container, as I said, starting on March 21st. This is your invitation to do the deep inner work so you can finally serve yourself and the person right in front of you with absolute integrity. Whether you join us on the Patronage Path or the Service Path, you're choosing a different way of being. Click the link, join the council on Heartbeat, and let's begin this rebellion together. I'll see you there. So much love and so much gratitude. I'll see you in the circle. Oh.